Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Blue Maxima, and I'm here checking out the most anticipated game of the year, arguably one of the most anticipated games of the entire decade, Cyberpunk 2077, brought to us by the folks at CD Projekt Red. And what do I think of it? It's pretty good. Yep, that's it. Show's over. You're not getting any more. Everybody out. No, I have a fair amount more to say about it. And it's going to take me a while, so please feel free to strap in and watch this carefully selected 75-minute video, and it's not even that careful if I'm being honest with you. There's a lot that I cut out because I didn't want this video to be 2 hours long. This is of a stretch of about 4 hours and a bit of gameplay, and I've been playing this for about 20 hours all up, according to GOG Galaxy. But my save game timer says I'm closer to around 18, which makes a little bit more sense if you consider the fact that if you die, you have to reload your save game, so it doesn't exactly count towards the game played time. But yes, for those of you who have been living under a rock for the past few years, Cyberpunk 2077 is an FPS RPG set in the near-ish future. Humanity's gone and augmented itself with cyber parts, and everything's kind of gone to shit because corporations rule everything. The Earth has gone to hell, and everything is ruled over by either horrible games or horrible businessmen. Take your pick. You are V. You are basically a mercenary working odd jobs. And by odd jobs, I mean murders, I mean stealing, I mean acquiring certain information. You take your pick in however you do it, and you can do it. And you mainly do this by talking to people, shooting people, or hacking people. Those are the three things that you do throughout this game. And you've also got a bit of looting to go along with it. Crafting weapons, upgrading weapons, crafting supplies like ammo, grenades, medkits, and what have you. And you go around doing odd jobs as you go. And the main story revolves around you getting this bloody chip implanted in your head that has an old school 2023 rocker who feels like he's more torn out of the 80s than 2023. And you have to figure out how to get him out of your head before you die. There is, of course, a fair bit more to it than that, but that's just the bare basics. If I took the time to explain the entirety of the intricacies of this world to you, we'd be here for 3 hours. But I will point out that the footage that you are watching on screen right now is running on the PC, and it is running at 30 frames a second, because this game is not very well optimized. Although you might argue that it might just be like, requires a really heavy computer instead of just not being optimized, because it's arguably one of the prettiest games that's come out in a very long time, especially on the PC platform. It is absolutely gorgeous. There's a ton of detail in the environments. The effects are crazy good looking. There's some great skyboxes going on. The ray tracing effects are really well done, and it's just a really pleasant, well, I say pleasant, but pleasant in the sense that it's got a lot of eye candy. It's very clearly an unpleasant place to live, but they've done an absolutely fantastic job in the way that this game looks. However, if you want to have the settings on in any reasonable way with ray tracing, you will need a monster of a rig. Like, I've got an 8700K, an RTX 2080, and 16 gigs of RAM, and I'm playing this off an SSD, although it's an M.2 SSD and not an NVMe SSD. And this game, even when I turn the settings down to, say, medium or so, I still only get 30 frames a second. And even then, I struggle to maintain that, because the game just kind of drops from time to time. So, as a result, in order to keep the frame rate as stable as possible, I played it at a locked frame rate of 30. And that's the way I've been going about it. And I've been... that's what I recorded it in, that's what I played it in. And it's relatively comfortable, although it brings back a couple of bad memories of playing certain first-person shooters at 30 FPS, but we won't bother getting into that. That's just more my own problem than the game's problem. So, let's talk about the basic gameplay loop, because most people appear to have the most problems with the way the game plays. So, here's the drill. You have quests all over the map. You have gigs, which are basically side quests. You've got side jobs, which are more intricate side quests. You've got your main quests, and then you've got these random crimes that pop up from time to time, which give you a bunch of dudes to go shoot that you can go shoot. Completing any of these will give you money, and will often level you up, And when you level up normally, you get skill points and attribute points. And you also get street cred. Street cred unlocks extra side jobs and gigs for you to do. And that is more or less it. It is basically just a constant go to the next quest, do it, go to the next quest, do it. There is very little off to the side. I've been playing this game for 20 hours and there is very, very little off to the side. So there are a couple of things which don't kind of fall in this sort of category. Like there are street races, there are collectibles for you to go get, there are things like, say, finding lost automated taxis out in the environment, stuff like that, but those all tie back into side quests. Like you'll get the side quest to collect all of the tarot card graffiti. You'll get the side quest to find all of the automated taxis. You'll get the side quest to beat up a bunch of people. You'll get the side quests to do any of that sort of thing. There's no, outside of that, there is no sort of miscellaneous activities whatsoever. You'll have places that you can go to change your look, or at least part of it. There will be places you can go in order to change out your parts, buy weapons, get food, etc. Basic stores, and there are also prostitutes, which I found out completely by accident. But other than that, there's basically nothing to do except go to places, shoot people, and do quests. And most people find this to be disappointing. Me, I really don't mind it. Because you look back at all of these other bloody games, like say, let's just say Assassin's Creed, for example, which has all of these icons on the map all over the place. They're all just like minor trinkets that you can collect to bring you up just a little bit. Or just minor side games like arm wrestling or whatever that have basically no relevance to the main game whatsoever and might give you something a tiny little bit special in the end. Cyberpunk doesn't have that. It has nothing but quests and then all of the other icons except for like the fast travel stations and a couple of other things which aren't side quests. They're just like shops or stuff that you need to refer to or what have you. That's basically it. It's just stuff that is actually like reasonable to do. They've put some effort into making it, and it means that you don't feel like you're going around doing some absolutely pointless crap over and over again, unless you're talking about the crimes that they spawn in from time to time. And even then, I think they're limited in some ways, but I'm not entirely sure. I haven't been playing the game long enough to confirm that. With that said, though, all of the focus needs to be on this game and its quests and its storytelling. And I'm happy to say that just from the ground up, it's really well done and it's the #1 point of this game. It's not the gunplay, it's not the RPG elements, it's not even like Night City itself, because as I said, there are no side activities, there's nothing except like shops and fast travel points which are really relevant to you. So Night City itself is really gorgeous. And it serves as a really great backdrop for all of the near future techie stuff that they've got going on, right? And there's nothing wrong with any of that in particular. It's just, yeah, it's a little bit lightweight. But at the same time, it doesn't matter if it serves the storytelling of the game well. Even to the point where some of the NPCs can be a bit stupid, or the cops are just kinda... Excuse me. All the cops are just kind of likely to just pop up out of nowhere sometimes. Or just a couple of other things along those lines. You know, things that might you look at them and you think, oh, they didn't really put that much effort into this. Oh, this is an absolutely terrible attempt at an open world. And I can look at that and I can agree with you if you think that way. But at the same time, I think to myself, how many times has a random pedestrian really been relevant to my progress through the game? How many times have the cops really been relevant to my appearance throughout the game? Because the cops never show up unless you kill, like, civilians. Unless you go on a Grand Theft Auto style rampage. And this clearly isn't meant to be that sort of game. It's kind of meant to be like Yakuza, where you're not really meant to be an absolute crime lord. And even the game knows it, because, yeah, you could be killing gangsters right in front of civilians, but the civilians will just run away. They won't report you to the cops won't come after you. They make a very specific point early on in the game that you're actually helping the cops by getting rid of a lot of these gangsters. So, really, you think of it as you're not really meant to trigger the police in the first place, and that just kinda, it doesn't so much relieve the problem entirely of the police being stupid, but at the same time, it makes it really hard to care, because in the 20 hours that I've been playing this game for, I've had the police on my ass for about 2 minutes. I died both times, but it was just completely and utterly irrelevant to anything that I was doing at the time. And what I was doing at the time was the quests and the jobs, the gigs, the main quest line stuff. Everything about all of that is extremely well done. It is very clear that they've got their own universe going on here. They have got their own terminology. They've got their own technology. They've got their own world and their own political issues and their own sort of just general ways about the place. And Cyberpunk does a great job in conveying that in a way that's entertaining. Whether it be the hundreds of individual text documents that are very reminiscent of the little time I spent playing The Witcher 3. Whether it be the little commercials that they play in the elevators while you're waiting to go up and down them. Or the little news stories that they play telling you about world politics. Or the just little things like that in between, where you'll hear a story about how the mayor of Night City got murdered, and then you end up trying to figure out what happened to him in the first place. Yeah, that's the sort of stuff I like. That's the sort of stuff that builds a world that I can get into. And it's helped out entirely by the way that they introduce their own tiny little things about the way the world works, like how cybernetics work, how everybody seems to have their own personal link, how everyone has their own slang, like this bloody choom is one that's incredibly popular in this game, which appears to mean stupid person, or something along those lines. How every little individual town has their own individual fixer that has you going around and doing jobs for them. It does a really good job in creating this little universe that you feel like you're inhabiting by doing these quests. Sure, you can argue that it kind of falls apart a little when you're just walking around Night City and the NPCs aren't particularly smart and cars can run into each other and what have you, but it still does a good job in its storytelling and in the way that it lets you interact with the world through the quests. And some of these quests are absolutely ridiculous in a way that I find quite charming and entertaining. Like, some of my personal favorites include one that you're probably watching in the video footage right now, which is how you seem to meet a, not so much a sentient, bloody vending machine, but it appears to want to talk to you, and it's got the weirdest face imaginable. And you can either get along with him or tell him to pound sand. And there are a ton of little mini quests like this throughout the game, which get just that little bit weird, but also introduce little bits of the game's story, like how you find people who are basically religious to the point of not putting themselves into augmetics, not giving themselves any sort of surgery to insert cyber parts whatsoever. And then you go and find one of these dudes who's been kidnapped and he's being forcibly augmented. And that just little things like that really make you think about the details of this world and where it goes. And it helps with the absolutely, well, not so much absolutely fantastic, but fantastic dialogue for the most part, where everybody feels quite well realized and their characters are quite solid all the way through. Especially, dun 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 dun, Johnny Silverhand, voiced by Keanu Reeves, who shows up early in the story and never goes away. I fully recommend you get through Act 1 as fast as humanly possible, because there are so many side quests that he can drop into and give you a little bit of an opinion on, and he's always got something snarky to say. Johnny is an asshole, but he's the likable kind of asshole who always has something neat to say about the situation. And he's very well written and very well done. Only sort of kind of let down by the fact that Keanu Reeves sometimes just can't quite nail it. He just can't quite get as angry as the role seems to need him to be. But for the most part, he's fine. He does a good job, and he's an entertaining character to be around because he's always got something cool to say. And there is always going to be someone or something just around the corner that's got something cool to say. And as you're going through each quest, you'll be earning street cred, which is the main way that you earn new gigs and earn yourself extra side quests to do. And there are so many of these that you'll be going through them one by one by one, and you can just endlessly chain interesting side quest after interesting side quest after just a gig that has you sneak through a building in order to, like, slow the pace a little bit, then another interesting side quest.
Sure.
And there's always going to be something interesting to do, or at the very least, as long as it lasts, right? Nothing lasts forever, but considering that I am 20 hours in and I'm not even close to finish with like half of the story at this point, yeah, there is a lot to see and a lot to find out about in Night City that's always particularly interesting. And they've got some great concepts for everything. So again, I brought out the automated taxis run by an AI that you have to hunt down, and each one is a unique encounter. And there's a bunch of other things along these lines. And that's what keeps the game interesting. That's what most of the footage in this video is. It literally got to the point where I had too many interesting side quests going on and too few interesting combat encounters to go off of. And it was legitimately starting to worry me to the point where I had to pop back into the game to get a little bit more combat footage, because there was so little like actual on-foot combat footage that, yeah, it is actually sort of kind of on ratio now. Like, I had about as much combat in comparison to about as much, like, talking to people, listening to the story and all that.
Let me out before he returns.
And there is a lot of dialogue. There is an absolute ton of it. There are tons of options in every discussion to give you more info that you might want or just continue on. And V is very well voice acted. I do appreciate that. They do a good job with not making him like a really generic bozo. You can definitely tell he's got a little bit of character going on back there.
It's complicated.
So good for that.
How bad before I change my mind.
And yeah, it's really enjoyable all the way through to go through these stories, find out more about this world, and experience what there is to experience in Night City that would tell me more about the land and its people. And that is the #1 thing that is good about Cyberpunk, and that's the main reason I would like to recommend the game. It is just an interesting world to explore from end to end. There are only a couple of quests that threw me off in the last 20 hours, and if you wouldn't mind, I'd like to tell you about them. So, I found Jesse Cox's character. He got his dick burnt off. I'm not even kidding. He got his dick burnt off. That is the entire point of his side quest. I got to listen to Jesse Cox go on about his cock for 5 minutes, and that's 5 minutes I'm never going to get back. There is also another quest which just hit a bit too close to the modern day for me personally, where if you go to, there's this one guy who you rescue from this random village, and you have to escort him back through a bunch of enemies. And when you get back, it gives you a word-for-word gag from a sitcom. Now, I don't remember what this was from specifically, because I don't watch too much TV, but I know this from cultural osmosis from the internet. But it's the one about the Japanese surgeon who did surgery on the Yakuza boss and then fled to America. It's that meme done almost word for word, and it was incredibly distracting. But when you go hand in hand with things like any of the other quests that I've talked about so far, and a bunch more that I probably haven't discovered yet, it's definitely more on ratio towards the good stuff than the bad stuff. I just wish I had the ability to kill Jesse Cox and bury him 6 feet under, so I'd never have to listen to his voice talk about dicks again. Thank you very much, Cyberpunk. That's something that's going to stick with me for a while. So with that said, now that I'm 19 minutes in, let me actually talk about the actual moment-to-moment gameplay. So outside of just wandering around and talking to people, you also have a bunch of other things, including, of course, the gunplay. And as I said earlier on in this video, it is a first-person shooter RPG. So I played this on hard, and the enemies were a little bit tanky. Not massively tanky, this isn't the Division levels of bad, but it can still be pretty bad, especially if you're pretty later on and you haven't got around to upgrading your guns yet. I can see why this would be a bit of a problem for you. Enemies do take a fair few shots on hard in order to bring down, but it's helped out by a few very unique sorts of mechanics. Each gun can have a certain kind of special attribute to it. The ones I've seen so far are tech, which can shoot through walls. There's power, which can ricochet off walls. And there's smart, which is basically like a pistol. And these pistols are basically like the smart pistol from Titanfall 2, where they lock onto the enemies and shoot them that way. The bullets curve in the air, Wanted style, and you can just beat the shit out of enemies with it. There are also plenty of other things you can do. There are types of environmental damage. There are things like headshot damage. And these are all like modifiers that you have with your guns. You can also attach mods to guns, scopes, silencers, different kinds of barrels and what have you, in order to tweak your playstyle. Do you want to be stealthy? Do you want to be guns blazing? Do you want to be something in between? You can do pretty much everything that you want. There are a couple of downsides to the way guns handle though. And here's the thing, a lot of the guns in this game just aren't particularly great. They do have decent kick and somewhat decent flavor. It's not terrible by any means, but the way I would describe it is, let's say, Borderlands with a little bit of extra flavor. They've got decent kick, they've got punch, and they are relatively enjoyable to shoot, but it's not going to be a game like Doom where you're going to absolutely love every single shot from a pistol. No. It's going to be just a little bit like repetitive after a while. You're going to need to find a weapon that you particularly like. And for me, it was finding a good smart pistol, a good charging single shot rifle, and a katana. There are melee weapons in this game as well. They all handle roughly the same. Some are slower, some are faster, some are non-lethal. So you can even go non-lethal if you want with guns. There's mods for that. But the thing about that is the melee weapons are a bit iffy. And by iffy, I mean they just kind of feel spammy. There's not that much in the way of reactions. It feels more like an all-or-nothing situation. You can't like lightly graze an enemy like on the arm with a katana. They're always going to fumble in the same way, so it always feels a bit contrived. When you're going around swinging the sword, you just barely clip them, but it knocks them back 5 feet, right? It's not as satisfying as using the guns, but thankfully they are relatively strong in and of themselves, so you're never going to be replacing a melee weapon with a shotgun unless it comes down to personal preference, at least that as far as I've seen. Another thing that kind of annoyed me about the way the weapons work in this game is that you've got 4 ammo pools. You've got pistol, sniper rifle, shotgun, and rifle. And rifle is everything from tactical rifle to single shot rifle to SMG to assault rifle. So if there's any gun in that sort of class you like, or if there are 2 guns in that class you like, they're going to share ammo. So if you find yourself running out of ammo and you swap to your other weapon, you'll be out. So I don't know why those aren't separate ammo, but that's just kind of a thing, I suppose. They want to encourage you to use 3 completely different kinds of weapons in all 3 of your weapon slots. You do also have access to medkits and grenades, or just like throwables. So there's things like flashbangs, which are basically EMP bombs. You've just got regular grenades, you've got toxic grenades, and you've got different kinds of healing. You don't have regeneration, at least by default in this game. You do tend to need to use them as like, you don't have regular regeneration when you start. You can get it via perks, but you can't get it via just regularly. You need to be using healing potions for the most part, which look like asthmatic inhalers. And they give you bits of your health back. So the default ones give you 40% of your health back. The better ones give you 80% of your health back. Sometimes you can get ones that'll give you a small amount of your health back, but then they'll just leak in more health as time goes on. And I've found these to be really touchy. It's kind of hard to get them to activate and then keep them activated, because it feels like doing anything will interrupt them. And in a game like this, where you're trying to scramble away from a toxic grenade that was just thrown and landed right at your feet, jumping, not having the inhaler that you just used activate, and then end up carking over dead because the damn thing didn't activate in time, is kind of annoying, because I've found myself in that situation more than a couple of times. And especially when you've just finished firing your gun and you're hammering away at the X button, waiting for the healing thing to come out, And your dude just stands there looking at his hands for 2 or 3 seconds, wondering what the hell he's supposed to be doing with this one command. And it's like, come on, get the healing potion. Drink the healing potion, you idiot. And it's kind of frustrating, if you couldn't tell. With that said, though, that doesn't happen very often, although I would appreciate the ability to just speed it up a bit, make it a little bit more smooth and a little bit more capable. And there are plenty of perks that you can get to help out with this, and maybe they'll help out along the way as well, like being able to use a healing thing while you're sprinting. But for now, at the very least, that's just that's not the way it works, at least in my game. So the gunplay overall is fine for the most part. Some weapons are good, some weapons aren't. You'll be spending a fair amount of time going through your inventory and looking at different weapons, seeing what their benefits are, seeing if it's worth the effort to swap out things like scopes and silencers. You've also got single-use mods, which will self-destruct when you try to take them out, so you might as well save the really good ones for your favorite weapons that are going to last you for a while. And then it comes around to the crafting system, because it's a FPS RPG. It needs to have a crafting system. You find the resources all over the world, and you can deconstruct weapons and armor and random junk that you find around the place for more crafting stuff. And when you have enough of that crafting stuff, you can craft yourself a new weapon, or some resources, or some upgrades for your gun, which will give them a little bit more damage, or give them like something new, like say a new mod slot or something. Or you can upgrade unique weapons to the next tier of weapons, which will give them even more stuff. But some of these resources can be really hard to come by. So in the example that I think of the most, when I use the crafting menu the most, it would be ammo and med docs. I think that's what they call them anyway. I think they call them bounce backs. Where it costs like 9 uncommon parts to craft them. And then, whenever I would check, I'd always have over 1,000 uncommon parts. So I was never running low on things like ammo or healing potions or anything, even on hard difficulty. Not going to claim to know what it's like on the difficulty above hard, but yeah, it can be pretty easy to make sure that you're always stocked up on resources. Weapons are a lot harder. Those are a lot harder to come by, and you absolutely need to be deconstructing weapons of purple and gold variety, which are quite rare. And they also tend to reset if you die. So if you find yourself a cool weapon and then the game resets because you died, that weapon will be reset. And it might just be a crappy green instead of a cool purple. That can kind of suck from time to time. The checkpoints are actually surprisingly infrequent. Like, sometimes you'll get one right out the front of what you were previously doing. Sometimes you'll be 2 minutes away. Sometimes you'll be an entire side quest between you and what you were previously doing. And that I don't get. That only happened once, but it was a really, really weird once, and I couldn't tell you what the deal was with it. What else is there? Yeah, we were talking about crafting. So yeah, it takes a lot of resources to craft the highest tiers of weapons. Like tons of them. It costs a ton of money, and you're kind of better off going for things like, say, the magic spells of this game, which are the quick hacks, which are determined by your operating system, which is an entire item in and of itself, which has a list of its own built-in hacks that you can use. And depending on the thing that you buy, the hacks you have available to you, which is a really nice touch. It gives you a reason to go back and constantly not only be upgrading your stuff, even though it costs an absolute fuck ton of money. You get a decent amount of money in this game. You're never going to be short of the money you need for essential resources, if worst comes to worst. But at the same time, all of the really good shit is really expensive. All of the operating systems that gives you the most resources that you need, in this case RAM, for your quick hacks, which is accomplished just by looking at something and holding the tab key, will... all the good stuff for that will cost you a fuck ton of money. But it's worth it in the end, because it gives you a lot of really unique abilities that you can do. Especially when it comes to looking at things like, say, robots, and being able to turn them in your favor, or being able to run a bunch of different things at once. So, for example, you look at a group of 3 enemies. You short circuit one dude, you blind another dude, and you cripple another dude, and then you come in, guns blazing, and you wipe them all out before they have a chance to react. Every single one of these quick things also has the ability to ping people, so you can see everything that's going on around you, and you have the ability to avoid all of your obstacles, see what's coming up ahead of you. You also have the ability to do things like disable cameras and force them to work for you. So if an enemy gets seen, it'll set off by that. And you can do the same thing with things like automated turrets and mines and things along those lines. A bunch of stuff that you can easily manipulate to your favor, often making this feel a little bit more like Deus Ex than it does any other modern FPS RPG of its time. And anything that makes me even remotely think of Deus Ex is a positive. So it gives you a lot of freedom of movement around these worlds to figure out what it is that you need to get done. Whether it be you set off a bunch of things to distract the enemy while you sneak by them, or you hit them all with crippling abilities, go in guns blazing and make sure that nobody walks out of there with any of their lives or their limbs still attached. So that works great. There's also the augmentations. I don't remember if that's exactly... I think they call them cyberware in this game, but they're basically Deus Ex style augmentations. And most of them are quite simple. Like, give yourself 50 extra armor. Give yourself the ability to make smart guns work with a tattoo on your arm for some reason. Give yourself the ability to move a bit faster. But some of the more expensive ones are going to be fucking whacked. Like having mantis blades instead of the ability to punch, which is literally just blades coming out of your arms like fucking Wolverine, at least as far as I understand from reading the descriptions. I haven't been able to afford any of them yet. Then you've got things like double jumping and super sprinting and berserk modes that increase your damage for 30 seconds. Or just crazy shit like that. That just gives you all sorts of things that you can do. Cool things to make you feel even more powerful than you already are. Giving you a bunch of stuff to work for that's also... Excuse me. That's also incredibly expensive. Yeah, I'm just watching my own footage right now. I'm a few minutes ahead of you. But it says something along the lines of, when your berserk is activated and you jump from a high height, you'll land on the ground with a shockwave that will damage surrounding enemies. That sounds like a fucking Deus Ex power-up, and it's great. Cyberware, however, is extremely expensive to the point where I've barely filled out all of my available slots yet, even with more baseline stuff, just because it's that expensive. Because between buying things like weapon upgrades, new rides, I'll talk about the driving after this before we get into the RPG side of things, between buying cyberware and doing things like quest requirements, you are going to be consistently broke. You're never going to have enough money for the things that you really want. And while that might be disappointing, at least it's a dedication to the idea of balance. At least I haven't found a really easy way to break the game's balancing wide open yet. So I'll give them credit for that, at the very least. So while my mind's on it, driving. It's alright. That's pretty much all I've got to say about it. I've mainly been sticking to motorbikes, which are relatively easy to weave through gaps, but the thing about the driving is that it's a lot heavier than you might be used to in a lot of other games. It reminds me more of, say, Grand Theft Auto 4 versus Grand Theft Auto 5. So you might find yourself skidding, running into a lot of people, running over people, and getting the cops called on you. It's not that bad. It's not unnavigatable, and you do have the ability to use quick travel if you just want to skip the driving for the most part, and I wholeheartedly recommend that you do that. Sometimes I'm just saying that the driving is nothing to write home about, although I do appreciate the fact that they give you the ability to buy an absolute fuck ton of cars. I have like 15 cars waiting to be bought, but I don't have €500,000 to go and get them. So there's going to be not that much in the way of cars in my future. I bought a motorbike, I was gifted 2 motorbikes, and I also have my basic car. And I'll deal with that for now. But some of these cars are great. You get like these fucking street races, you get massive vans, you get all sorts of things like that, although running into enemies and all of that along those lines is enough to probably get you just in a more buggy position than you would otherwise be in. I wouldn't recommend doing it off the top of my head, but honestly, it's just kind of a matter of personal preference, because any time that it really becomes important, you'll be in someone else's car anyway. So really, just pick the car that you like and go for it, because there's really not that much else to say about the cars. Honestly, I'd recommend just going with a bike. Either that or go with the car so fast they can break the limits of the game, but at the same time, you probably don't want to break the limits of the game because of the amount of bugs that it has. But I don't want to get into that just yet, because I want to talk about the game's RPG systems. Because Admittedly, I actually quite like them because they remind me a lot that they kind of take the Elder Scrolls system and kind of merge it into something that feels a hell of a lot faster and more enjoyable, while at the same time giving you a fair bit more flexibility in what it is that you're able to do. So, let me explain how the RPG system in this game works. You have individual stats, a la any basis RPG, like things strength, intelligence, dexterity, charisma, what have you. They're different in this game. It's like cool, intelligence, strength, and a couple of other things. I think there's already been footage of it in the video if you've been paying attention to it in the background, where you up those individual stats and they give you a little boost to everything in relation to that. Cool gives you a boost to everything related to your stealth and your ability to remain calm in that sense. Intelligence gives you a boost to quick hacks. Body gives you increases to everything from your physical strength to your overall health and stamina. Stuff along those lines, right? And as you level them up, they give you access to do things in the world. Like there are some doors that will require a certain amount of strength to get open. There are some computers that will require a certain amount of intelligence to get into, and so on, like that, right? But they all also have their own unique individual skills. And these individual skills can be anything from, say, increase your maximum stamina by 10%, to increase your blunt weapons damage by 10%, to increase your damage to torsos by 10%, make everything that little bit faster, make everything that little bit quicker, do things like be able to fire while sprinting, be more effective in stealth, be more effective in gunplay. You get the general idea. There are plenty of different categories along these lines, and they all have their own individual levels that go up Skyrim style. So the more that you use handguns, the more handgun experience you get, the more levels you get in handguns. And these skills have all of these skills that are locked to the level of that skill. So at a handgun level of 1, you're not going to be able to get the best handgun abilities, right? You have to wait until you get to like handgun level 15 or what have you. So you keep leveling them up. However, there are also bonuses that you get along the way, as well as the bonuses that you'll get from just leveling up in general. So you'll be using handguns all the time, and you'll go to level 2 in handguns, and you'll get, say, 10% less pistol spread, right? And then you'll move on to like level 3 and it's like 20% faster reloads. And then you'll move on to level 4 and it'll be like, hey, have a free attribute point. You get one body point, one skill point and one attribute point. The skill points are for your main stats, the body, the intelligence, the cool. And then your attribute points are for buying skills. But thankfully, your attribute points, even if you earn them by leveling up. So if you get to level 4 in handguns, you get 1 attribute point. But then you can go and spend that 1 attribute point in freaking blunt weapons, or in assault rifles, or in hacking, for example. So it's just a free bonus. You don't have to worry about using it in handguns, you just get it for using handguns. So, as a result, the game not so much adapts to your playstyle, but you can tweak it to adapt to your playstyle. You can pay attention to what you're leveling up along the way early on in the game and focus on that. So you think to yourself, oh, I've got a lot of experience in pistols because I like using the smart pistols. I'll use some more attribute points in pistols. It's not like, say, Elder Scrolls, where you have to pick like 3 skills that level up faster than every other skill, and those are the only ones that are relevant to your level. Your level goes up in the background no matter what you do. You're just working at it with this you're just working at it no matter what you're doing. You're always leveling up, you're always getting extra levels in all your attributes. As a result, the RPG system feels free. It flows nicely. It doesn't feel like you're being arbitrarily led down one route from the very start of the game. The only thing that really seems to lead down any particular route at the start of the game is the background that you pick, which lasted, in my case, in the Corpo backstory, for about 30 to 45 minutes, and then it just kind of split off into its own thing, and sometimes I'd get an extra dialogue choice. That seems to be about it. Of course, you also have dialogue choices depending on how high certain stats are, but other than that, that's basically it. And as a result, I really like the RPG system, because it just works really well. I don't want to say it mutates, but it works to my playstyle. It lets me choose the way I want to tackle the game. Do I want to focus on hacking? Do I want to focus on stealth? Do I want to focus on a specific kind of weapon? I can do any one of these, and it feels entirely natural to do so. Meanwhile, if I do focus on these, but then I find that I need to do something else for a little bit, I'm not crippled when I move back over to there. It's not going to be like, say, Fallout, where your choices can, at least at this point of the game, I could be completely talking me out of my ass here, depending on whether or not I was just lucky enough to find the right quests or not. But it doesn't feel like Fallout, where I'm being arbitrarily locked out of something just because I don't happen to have 65 charisma or what have you. Which was a good reason in those games to encourage replayability, but at the same time, I'm playing Cyberpunk 2077, I've only got 7% of the achievements, and I've been playing for about 20 hours. So I don't really feel like I would need to replay this even if I wanted to. So, that's nice. So, I've spent 40 minutes basically praising this game non-stop, except for the Jesse Cox cock quest. So, let's talk about the elephant in the room. The massive, Titanic-sized elephant in the room. And that is the bugs. The bugs. There are so many minor bugs in this game, it's unbelievable. Now, as I said, I've been playing on PC. I'm above the minimum spec. I am playing on an SSD. I am at almost the best way possible to play this. And I'm still seeing a fair amount of bugs. And I can talk about a pretty big majority of them. So I've seen some comedic ones. Like, for example, I've had a few people T-pose on me. I have had my own motorbike run me over after I've called it, and then run away screaming like a little bitch because it doesn't want me to actually ride it. I've died at a checkpoint, then respawned inside of a car that's being driven as part of an AI event, but I've spawned in the driver's seat along with the AI companion I was driving along with, so I was inside their head watching their hair flow over mine the entire time, and it was freaking weird. Then I've had some bugs which have really affected the gameplay somewhat. I've had my health meter go down to 0 and stick. So I just, like, at one point, my health meter decided not to read 165 out of 165. It decided to read 0, 0. And it just stuck there until I died and respawned. There were a couple of times where I got stuck in the environment and had to hammer keys for 45 seconds to get myself out of it, including this one absolutely hilarious example where I was riding my motorbike to the edge of the map, and I did this really big jump. And in the middle of the jump, I must have hit some invisible barrier, and a message appeared on screen saying, go back, there's nothing for you out this way yet. And I stopped. But I stopped floating in midair. So for about a minute, I got to watch my motorbike floating in the middle of the air with me on it looking like a dag, slowly floating downwards to the ground with soft jazz music playing over the radio. It was fucking hilarious, but it was also kind of annoying because I had to wait a minute only to learn that I had to reload my last save game to get me out of the situation that I was in, because even the largest amount of hammering away at the WASD keys was not enough to get me out of that situation. I've had cars run into each other and not be able to do anything. I've had things like cars just try to run me over and run away that I've wanted to get into. I've had things like guys spawning in a place which makes them really inconvenient to get to. I've ended up stuck more than a couple of times in a couple of ways. And there are all sorts of other minor little things going on, which, it's impressive. It's like playing an unpatched copy of Skyrim, basically. Some of it's breaking, most of it isn't. I haven't played anything that's made me lose more than a couple of minutes of progress at a time. But I'm just gonna say that, yeah, it is buggy. I didn't get the worst of it. I've heard of people that have had way worse than I have.
Oh, fuck no.
Especially if you play this game on PlayStation 4 or Xbox One. So, under no circumstances would I recommend you get the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One versions of this game, because man, it's something.
Cargo and your car. You go alone, you won't get them back.
What other bugs did I have? I'm sure that I've had a few that I'm completely forgetting about. Oh yeah, One that also annoyed me, I had a couple of invisible cops turn up, and they were shooting bullets at me from out of thin air. That one was fun. Yeah, there's a couple of other things like that along those lines, but you get the general idea. This game has 1,000 good ways to break and a few hundred bad ways to break. And while I still really enjoy the game, it is kind of hard to say go buy it right now. It's very easy to say buy it when they've patched it up a bit. Maybe in February when the second major patch is rolled out. Or maybe when someone figures out how to actually dig into the game's files and mod some of these bugs out. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to be anywhere near as easy as Skyrim because it's not running on an open platform like the GEC, as they call it.
Cars in Rocky Ridge. You're supposed to know.
Is there anything else I really have to say? I've been at it for about 45 minutes. I've covered most of the important stuff. There's a ton of graphic settings, although there are a couple of ones that are missing that are kind of weird. Like, there's no anti-aliasing whatsoever. You've got DLSS, which is basically just render the game at a lower resolution and then use machine algorithms to scale it up. And that really does help with performance at the cost of having like some weird trails behind you sometimes, but it does look decent. I was able to play at a lot of the different kinds of DLSS performance, even at 1080p, and I wasn't able to I basically didn't have that much problem with it. I got used to it pretty quick. But yeah, there are a lot of things missing which are a little bit weird in that sense. There's full key bindings, thankfully. I've heard that this is a problem on controllers. There's tons of sound options, there's tons of subtitle options. There's a few abilities like turn off copyrighted music if you want that. I had that turned off entirely for this video. Honestly, wasn't able to tell where it made a difference, which is good, because it means that it just felt kind of natural not to have the copyrighted music in there.
Thanks, boss.
There is a lot of nudity. There is an absolute ton of nudity. There are breasts everywhere. There's breasts in the intro, there's breasts in the ads, there's breasts in the game somewhere. There's breasts. You visit strip clubs like 3 times in the first few story missions, and there are naked breasts everywhere. You can tell it is Slav Eurojank because of this, but, you know, it's nice that it actually made it to at least GOG Galaxy, which is the version I'm playing here, without being censored by the console manufacturers, but at the same time, this is a Western developed game. So, it's like, you know, they're not going to punish the Western developed games for being horny like they punish the Eastern ones. Seriously, it's starting to get ridiculous. Like, they literally have, like, so much weird crap going on in this game, and then, oh dear, they tend to be even slightly erotic in Japanese 2D anime porn games. Nope, screw that. Just censor it entirely. It's weird. It's really weird. It's not even porn, technically, but we don't care. We think it's anime porn just because it looks like cute girls. I don't know. Screw them. It's even gone to the point where Twitch is like, oh, you can stream Cyberpunk 2077. You can't stream any hentai games, though. You can't stream any anime games which are even slightly risque. It's just not... I hate the cognitive dissonance going on here, but then again, at the same time, again, most anticipated game of the last few whatevers. What else is there to talk about? No quick save except in the press escape menu, which doesn't really make any sense to me, because if you're going to hit escape to press F5 to quick save, what would the point be if you can just go and click save game and then make a new save anyway? It doesn't take that much longer. Couldn't tell you on that one. What else is there? No, I don't really need to talk about the subtitles. You've seen them here, they're fine. There's a couple of minor typos here and there, but with the amount of dialogue lines this game has, I'm willing to accept it. I really think that's it. I really don't think I have anything else to talk about. I'm just trying to remember all the things I've seen in the options, and no, all of the usual stuff is there and fine, so... Right, I guess I'll wrap this up and let you watch the rest of this gameplay footage. What time code are we at? 49 fucking minutes, holy shit. So you'll get to see a little bit of a story mission, and then you'll get to see a bit of a story conversation, all of which is starring Johnny Silverhand, so you get a bit of an idea of what his character is like. It is basically going to be a little bit in the way of story spoilers, but not much. nothing particularly big. So if you want to keep watching, you can go ahead. But for my, not so much final opinion on Cyberpunk 2077, because I'm going to keep playing it, but at least for my first impression, it is a really enjoyable first-person shooter RPG, but that's mainly thanks to its storyline. Its world, outside of the fact that it's meant to be a backdrop for all of these quests, is really quite dull. There's not that much to do in it outside of those quests, but thankfully, there are a lot of those quests. They're great on the storytelling. They give you a few reasons to shoot up a bunch of dudes.
Come on, answer.
And they give you a really good idea of what this world is like. They do a great job at what matters, and that's the world building. And Night City serves as an absolutely fantastic backdrop to that. The gunplay is average at best and highly competent to very enjoyable at its very best. But of course, that depends on how you enjoy playing the game, and maybe depending on the difficulty you're on. And the RPG systems are enjoyable in the fact that they don't outright force you down one path, and they all feel natural and tuned to proper and enjoyable gameplay.
We need to calibrate you with the
so,
I want you to
yeah, outside of the fact that it's bugged to high heaven, and I'd recommend that any and all console players avoid this shit like the plague until they patch it up. If you have a computer that is a fair bit above the minimum requirements, I wholeheartedly recommend you go and play Cyberpunk 2077. Because it's really enjoyable past all the bugs. This has been Bleed Maxima, and I will see you all next time.
Just connect.
How should I connect? Personal link?
How else? Just watch the jack. Sometimes you have to jig a little bit.
Wired in.
Wait a moment. Diagnostics first. Shit, it keeps giving me an error. Odd. Let me work around it.
And now, Pan Am, here's Johnny, out in the middle of bumfuck nowhere. Great work, V.
Hey, I think your implant has a virus. The one in the nape of your neck.
I've got a bioprocessor in my head that operates independently of me. Probably why your diagnostics flagged it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But no data will leak out of it through the personal link. Your ride's secure.
Fine. I trust you won't fuck anything up. Okay. Here goes nothing. See that pile of junk? Fire a short burst into it. I'll take care of the calibration. Good. Next target. Single shot. Okay. Just one more. Longer round. Great. We're done, I think. And that wasn't so bad, was it?
Calibration's fine, but your soft could really use an update. Scanner, controllers, all a couple of generations back, at least. There's better tech in the bargain bin at a kabuki flea market. I can help you with that, you know.
Yes, sure. The most important thing is that it works now.
So where's this power station?
You will see in a moment. I know a spot. We'll have a decent view from there. I just want to be sure the area is clear.
Sabotage a Corpo power station. Jump a Corpo transport. Kidnap a Corpo suit.
Is this a plug for the word corpo, or do you have a point?
Know what? You're starting to remind me of me, 50 years back. Minus the charisma. An impressive cock. Maybe we can just get along.
Could be something to that, I suppose. What happened to us, it must have had some effect.
You're more like me than you think. You'll see.
But it goes both ways. Maybe you're becoming more like me.
Nah, no way.
All looks clear. The area looks deserted. I see no patrols. The huge thing is the collection unit. And see the antennas? Each antenna collects microwave energy from satellites in orbit. That's then converted into electric power.
Antennas run a ways down the interstate. We set off a chain reaction that starts in the collection unit.
Then each antenna will emit a massive EMP burst.
While our AV flies right into our net.
We just have to send out the pulse at the right moment.
Let's go get her.
When we arrive at the station, you overload the systems. I'll set up a bypass link for the detonator.
Why don't I start with the transformers? Make mayhem in the relative voltages. Rest should move faster after that.
Not a bad idea. It's just...
Yeah, I know, the converters. But they shouldn't be a problem. I'll just crank everything up past max.
Seems we think alike.
So what now?
We wait. We should time our arrival to the AV flight plan.
Got it.
Good. Time to roll.
Done anything like this before?
Downing an AV? By myself? No. Why do you ask?
Seems Rogue was right.
V.
What? She said you were good, and she was right.
Yes, I suppose she was. But we have yet to take the AV, so you might wait before you fasten a halo on her.
Know what? Think I figured you out.
Oh, you have you?
Either pull off this mission, or prove Rogue wrong. Choose one.
Fuck off. I will get both done. Okay, we'll be there in a moment. One last time. We drive in, fuck up the system, and get the hell out of there. Hold on tight. This could get a little bumpy. Get ready.
Okay, I'm ready.
Drone!
I'll deal with them.
Deal quick before they hit us! Good enough.
Is that all of them?
Mm-hmm. Provided we hurry. Find the controls. I'll connect the detonator. Quick, V.
Ah, shit! Come on. Breathe. Ah, shit! Think we might have overdone it, Pan Am.
Do you see that? All lit up and blinking like a Christmas
Girl, you
tree.
wanted 11. You got 11.
Fuck yeah! Let's get out of here before it lights us up too.
V, get the fuck out before something happens to the chip.
Thanks for the tip. You know, I was just about to set up a picnic. Maybe lay out. Work on my base stand.
Watch out. The next one might.
Johnny? Johnny.
Fucking hell. Okay, I'm fine. It's okay, it's okay, I'm fine, yeah. Just delta the fuck out.
Not the cleanest job, perhaps, but it still went well.
What about the detonator? Is it working?
Yes, it's working. And I don't even see a drop in the signal strength. We just need to drive far away enough to keep the pulse from blasting us, too. The cliff there. We'll set up. It should give us a good view of the antennas. And then we wait.
Okay.
Here.
Always wanted to push the big red button on something like this. How do we know when?
Don't worry. I'll have eyes on it. You just wait for my signal. Then set off that pulse. They won't know what hit them. And by the way...
What?
We are about to knock a multi-million-euro Kang Tao asset clean out of the sky. How does that make you feel?
Blasting shit. Exactly what the doc ordered.
And that's exactly what I like to hear.
Just noticed.
What?
It's quiet. The hum of the city, people's voices, the smells. It's all gone. Wind just intensifies it. Think I forgot quiet exists.
Mm-hmm. Though maybe not the smells. I mean, the coyotes. Rather hard to miss.
Thought that was just the air freshener in your Thornton.
Ha ha. Screw you. You'd do better to focus on the AV. Keep your eyes open. It's there. Coming from Pacifica. All right. Get ready. One more second. One more. Now!
Boom. There she is.
Shit! What's happening?
Fan-fucking-tastic. Fucking hell. Fuck.
Bullseye!
Pan Am, the engines are still running. Fuck, they're getting away.
They're going nowhere.
We gotta go after it.
Give me a moment.
Pan Am, what are you doing?
That's how you do it!
It's losing altitude.
We got the bastard.
Let's go.
We got it!
No way it stays in the air after a blast like
We
that.
either land or crash.
You catch that? Over. AV, unmarked. Losing out.
Edge!
There?
Scorpion! What the hell are they
Finishing
doing?
up at the generators. Follow them. On my way in a bit. Battery
Mitch,
should sort
Scorpion,
itself out.
it's Pan Am! Don't go near that AV! I repeat, do not approach the AV!
On the way, or I'll start the party without you.
It's Kang Tao! Wait for me! Or better get the hell out! They probably want to help the survivors, without knowing it's corporate. They can't hear me! The pulse is interfering. Shit! I have 3 on radar!
Drones?
Yes, get ready. They're trying to slow us down. We won't let them. We have to reach Mission Scorpion.
Pan Am, problem. Not shooting.
Shit! Probably jammed again. I'll fix it. Hold on tight. Going on autopilot. Seized up. Son of a
They're on
bitch.
our tail. Pan Am.
I know! Fucking latches! Don't want to open! Just a second! Fuck! It's nothing. I'm fine. Okay. For the time being, at least.
Time being's all we need. Hey,
Where am I? What is this place?
motel, middle of nowhere.
Any specific middle?
Doesn't matter. You're not leaving here by yourself anyway.
Why are we here?
Want to talk about your little invention. Biochip you made for Arasaka.
Fine. But let's get one thing straight first. Yorinobu Arasaka didn't send you?
No.
This means you must have an offer for me. If your boss will pay more than Kang Tao, I believe we can talk.
Nobody sent me. I got a problem, and you're gonna help me.
And what does that have to do with the biochip?
Got Silverhand's construct in my head. It's literally driving me crazy, and I know it's only gonna get worse. That is, unless I remove it. And that, none of that's on the billboards I saw. Not even in the fine print.
Silverhand. Construct, that's impossible. Where did you get this biochip?
Klept it off Yorinobu Arasaka. Job for a client. But the client left me out to
And
dry.
you decided the best place for it was in your own goddamn head.
Actually, wasn't a bad idea. Construct rebooted me when my own goddamn head took a bullet.
I always knew Yorinobu's plan would fail. I just never imagined it would turn out like this. Arasaka's prized tech really is in the very streets of the city.
You have to remove the biochip from my system.
It's not that simple.
Look, you made the thing, didn't you? So where's the problem?
If you're telling the truth, you slotted in a new experimental version of the biochip.
I know you can't just yank it out. My Ripper
You
said...
showed that to some fucking street doctor? Who else knows?
I needed help. Or did you think the first thing that came to mind was down in a Kang Tao AV? How's the prototype version different? It's got a different engram, something more...
Where?
aggressive?
The biochip is what's unique, not Silverhand's engram. The previous version of the chip was only used to communicate with pre-saved engrams.
And it was rare as fuck and cost a fortune. Yeah.
This one's rarer. Meant to install and activate the engram in a new body. When I left Arasaka, the project was still in the trial phase.
How exactly was this new version supposed to work? Were you planning to have the engram kick people out of their own bodies? Is that shit by design?
During the tests, we assumed that the body would be neurally indifferent during implantation.
You mean dead?
Yes, which makes what happened to you interesting indeed.
Huh. Imagine my luck. To be so fucking unique, so fucking exceptional. That mean you'll help me?
Well, well.
I would have to see it first.
Whoa, we just met. Haven't built up that sort of trust yet.
How did you think this was going to go? If you want me to help you, I must examine you.
Okay.
Unbelievable. It looks like...
Can't believe this suit's the one who's gonna help us.
Oh, fuck.
Impressive, isn't it?
What a pity I won't be able to examine it fully.
Yeah, real shame. You could have been his guinea pig too.
Tell me how to get rid of it.
I'm afraid I have bad news. Your neural network has completely deteriorated. It can no longer function independently of the chip. The only thing I could do
Woohoo, it's bargaining time.
is to give you information on a good clinic in Sweden. They'll help you through the terminal stages. Minimize the pain.
What exactly is going on in my head?
You tell me, what's it like to have two personalities? Because it's not like you're hearing voices. You're both yourself and Silverhand, simultaneously.
I can see him and talk to him.
You're not talking, but yes, I understand what you mean. Have you noticed the construct's influence on your decision-making?
Sheesh, give it a rest.
When it comes to my decisions, Johnny really is just a voice in my head. Maybe he has a different opinion, but he can't make me do anything.
Agreed 100%. You are one fucking stubborn.
It's not as if one of you wins the debate. The scale simply shifts, slowly but surely.
What do you mean?
You will start doing things that were once unthinkable, at least to your old self. And you know exactly who he was. A fanatic, a terrorist, a suicide
Well,
bomber.
fuck me. Who's trying to mess with your head now?
That is why I believe it would be better for you to consider clinical isolation at this stage.
At least Johnny never whored himself out like you.
Are you defending him? Or is that Johnny speaking now? Oh, let me guess. He already tried to take over your body. You know, just for a little while.
No.
Would you though? Could be fun.
Johnny,
Kidding. But watch out. Suit's getting ready to talk your head off.
know what? That's enough. You just playing for time? Because I can't tell. Are you trying to convince me you're useless? 'Cause I mean, in that case, I can just shoot you in the head and save us both some time.
Ah, finally.
I will try to help you. If you come with me to Kang Tao.
I'll try, just isn't gonna cut it. Actually, it's almost like you're trying to buy your way in with the Chinese, at my expense.
Do you even realize how much data is in your head? Even if I can't help you, the data must be saved.
Well, fuck me
Forget Kang
sideways.
Tao. Got any other ideas?
If you think there's anyone else who can help you, I could give you the blueprints. Complete project documentation. Kang Tao offered quite the sum for it.
You got it with you?
He's got to. Gonk's fucking useless without him.
V.
Takamura? What the hell is he doing here?
He's got a few questions of his own for you. You play nice, he might even save your ass. I'm almost done. The blueprints.
Better than nothing. Long as we find someone fluent in technobabble.
What'll you do with him?
I haven't decided yet.
Are you serious?
You know me. I can be impulsive.
He's all yours. I'll give you two some space.
I hope we can come to an understanding.
That is certainly in your best interest. V, I will remember this.
This heat. My throat is positively parched.
See that? Fuck me, just look at that.
Unacceptable. Inhumane. That is not me. You will see the difference. I will.
Sons of bitches.
Know what? Afraid I don't got time for chit-chat.
Lacking the balls. That's your problem. Got exactly no rep in this town and the chooms to match.
Still got better prospects than a carbon copy ghost of a washed-up rocker boy locked in a trinket.
Your last prospect was to net some eddies on a stolen biochip. Remember how that went?
Sure seem to know a lot about my past.
Well, seen flashes of your past. Just like you've seen flashes of mine.
Don't think I care. What does interest me is why you're a clingy creep.
I think we can work together, V.
But your plans make no sense. Destroy Arasaka? I don't even know what that means.
All in good time.
Your goal's to bury Arasaka. Demolish it. Mine's to stay above ground. Seem pretty clearly defined, both.
Actually aligned pretty nicely, too. You need Mikoshi to save your life? That done, I can burn it to the ground.
There it is. The Crusade. Get to Mikoshi, smash the system.
Okay. I'll tell you why I want to destroy Arasaka, but I'll only tell you once. Want to hear it?
All right.
I saw a corpse strip farmers of water, and eventually of land. Saw them transform Night City into a machine fueled by people's crushed spirits, broken dreams, and emptied pockets. Corps have long controlled our lives, taken lots, and now they're after our souls.
Might be right. Can't really argue with you there.
V, I've declared war not because capitalism's a thorn in my side or out of nostalgia for an America gone by. This war's a people's war against a system that spiraled out of our control. It's a war against the fucking forces of entropy. Understand?
Johnny, take a sec. We gotta...
Do whatever it takes to stop them, defeat them, gut them. If I gotta kill, I'll kill. If I need your body, I'll fucking take it.
Johnny...
Fucking hell. You still don't see it, but you will one day.